reach the main town of Fira as a late afternoon light begins to deepen, painting the whitewashed buildings in shades of gold and amber. The narrow streets are paved with smooth, volcanic stones that have been polished by countless footsteps, and your shoes make a soft tapping sound as you navigate between the small shops and cafes that line the caldera's edge. The buildings seem to grow from the cliff itself, their cubic forms stacked and clustered like children's blocks, each one positioned to capture the maximum view of the sea. You follow Ipapantis Street toward the cliff edge, passing beneath strings of bougainvillea that cascade from hidden courtyards above. The flowers brush against your shoulder, their papery petals releasing a faint, sweet fragrance, and you can feel their texture, delicate yet resilient, like tissue paper that has been kissed by the sun. The street narrows as it approaches the caldera, and the sound of your footsteps mingles with the distant murmur of conversation from the terraced restaurants ahead. At the cliff's edge, you find yourself on a wide terrace where the town simply ends, giving way to an abyss of blue that seems to stretch to the edge of the world. The railing here is white-painted metal, warm from the sun and slightly rough with salt corrosion. You rest your hands on it and feel the vibration of the wind as it rises from the caldera below, carrying with it the sound of waves against the volcanic cliffs 300 meters beneath your feet. A waiter emerges from one of the terraced restaurants, his white shirt bright against the deep blue of the sea behind him. He carries a tray of small glasses filled with what looks like honey-colored wine, and as he passes, you catch the aroma, something floral and mineral, with hints of citrus and volcanic soil. This is Assyrtiko, Santorini's indigenous grape variety that thrives in the island's unique pumice soil, its roots digging deep to find moisture in this arid landscape. You settle at a small table on one of the terraces, the metal chair still warm from the previous occupant. The tablecloth flutters gently in the breeze, and you can feel the fabric's texture beneath your fingers. Cotton softened by countless washings and bleached white by the Mediterranean sun, the waiter approaches with unhurried steps, his movements economical and practiced. When he speaks, his English carries the musical cadence of Greek, each word carefully chosen and delivered with genuine warmth. "Kalispera," he says, the greeting rolling off his tongue like a small song. "Something to drink while you watch the evening." You order a glass of the local wine, and he nods approvingly before disappearing into the restaurant's cool interior. While you wait, you watch the play of light on the water far below. The caldera's surface shifts from deep blue to turquoise to silver as clouds pass overhead, and you can see the wake of a small boat drawing a white line across the water, probably one of the sunset cruise vessels making its way toward Oya for the evening's main event. The wine arrives in a glass so thin you can feel its delicate weight in your hand. The first sip floods your mouth with flavors that seem to capture the essence of this place. Minerals and sunshine, sea spray and volcanic earth. The liquid is cool against your tongue, but it leaves a warm sensation as it travels down your throat. You can taste the struggle of the vines, their roots reaching deep into pumice and ash to find sustenance, their grapes concentrated by the relentless sun and constant wind. As you sip, you become aware of the other sounds that make up Fira's evening symphony. There's the distant clatter of dishes from restaurant kitchens, the soft scrape of chairs being moved on terraces, the occasional burst of laughter from other diners. Somewhere behind you, a Greek folk song plays softly from a radio, its bouzouki melody weaving through the evening air like incense. The music mingles with the sound of the wind in the bougainvillea and the far-off cry of gulls riding the thermals that rise from the sun-heated cliffs. The sun continues its descent toward the western horizon, and the quality of light begins to change. What was golden becomes amber, then copper, then the deep orange of a ripe persimmon. The buildings around you seem to glow from within, their white walls reflecting and amplifying the warm light until the entire town appears to be carved from luminous stone. You can feel the warmth on your face, gentle but persistent, like the touch of a benevolent hand. A couple at the next table speaks in hushed tones, their words indistinguishable, but their tone intimate and wondering. The woman points towards something in the distance, and following her gaze, you see a small chapel, perched impossibly on a rocky outcrop. Aegean Nikolaos, its blue dome barely visible against the darkening sky. The man nods and reaches across the table to touch her hand, and you can see in their posture the kind of quiet amazement that Santorini seems to inspire in everyone who encounters it for the first time. Your wine glass is nearly empty now, and you signal the waiter for another. He approaches with the same unhurried grace, and as he refills your glass, you catch the scent of his cologne, something woody and masculine that mingles with the salt air. First time in Santorini, he asks, and when you nod, he smiles. You choose good time. Tonight will be clear for sunset. His words carry the certainty of someone who has watched thousands of sunsets from this very spot, who can read the sky like a favorite book. You finish your wine as the light continues to deepen, then leave a few euros on the table and begin walking north along the caldera path toward Imerovigli. This footpath follows the cliff edge for nearly 3 kilometers, connecting the island's most dramatic viewpoints in a ribbon of smooth stone that has been worn by countless pilgrims seeking the perfect sunset view. Your footsteps echo softly against the volcanic rock, and you can feel the slight roughness of the path's surface through your shoes, a texture created by centuries of wind and weather working on the compressed ash and pumice. The path winds between whitewashed walls that enclose private courtyards and hotel terraces, offering glimpses through wrought iron gates of hidden gardens where jasmine and oleander bloom in terracotta pots. The air here is perfumed with their fragrance, sweet and heady in the warm evening air. You pass beneath archways draped with grapevines, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze and casting moving shadows on the white walls. The grapes hang in small, tight clusters, not yet ripe, but already showing the deep purple color that speaks of the intense sun that beats down on this island for most of the year. As you walk, the view constantly changes. Sometimes the path curves inland, offering glimpses of Santorini's interior, terraced vineyards carved into the volcanic soil, their geometric patterns speaking of generations of careful cultivation. Other times it hugs the cliff edge so closely that you can look straight down into the caldera, where the water is so deep and blue it seems almost black. The contrast is dizzying, the brilliant white of the buildings, the deep blue of the sea, the red and black striations of the volcanic cliffs. You pass a small church, Panagia Platsani, its blue dome glowing like a jewel in the golden light. The heavy wooden door stands slightly ajar, and you can see candles flickering inside, their warm light dancing on painted icons. drifts from the church carries the scent of incense and old wood, mixed with the waxy smell of burning candles. Someone has left a small bouquet of wild flowers on the steps, poppies and daisies that must have been picked from the fields inland, their petals already beginning to curl in the heat. A cat emerges from the shadows beside the church, its fur a patchwork of orange and white that seems to glow in the evening light. It approaches with the confident stride of an animal that has never known hunger, rubbing against your legs and purring with a sound like a small engine. Its fur is warm and soft beneath your fingers, and you can feel the vibration of its purr through your palm. The cat's eyes are the color of sea glass, and it watches you with the patient attention of a creature that has all the time in the world. The path continues north, sometimes climbing steps carved directly into the cliff face, sometimes descending into small hollows where wild herbs grow in the cracks between stones. You brush against a patch of oregano, and its sharp, pungent scent rises to meet you. The same herb that grows wild across all the Greek islands, but somehow more intense here, concentrated by the volcanic soil and constant sun. Your fingers come away dusty with pollen and the fine volcanic ash that coats everything on Santorini, giving even the air a slight grittiness that you can feel between your teeth. As you round a bend in the path, Imerovigli comes into view, a cluster of white buildings perched on the highest point of the caldera rim, like snow on a mountain peak. The village seems to float above the sea, its buildings so perfectly integrated with the cliff that it's impossible to tell where nature ends and human construction begins. The sight takes your breath away, not just for its beauty, but for the audacity of it, the sheer human determination it must have taken to build a settlement in such an impossible place. You can hear the sound of voices now, carried on the wind from the terraces ahead. There's laughter and the clink of glasses, the soft murmur of conversation in multiple languages as travelers from around the world gather for the evening's ritual. But beneath these human sounds, you become aware of something else. The deep, almost subsonic rumble of the sea far below, where waves generated by the Aegean winds crash against the base of the cliffs. It's a sound you feel more than hear, a vibration that seems to rise through the solid rock beneath your feet. You reach Imerovigli as the sun hangs low over Thracia, painting the western sky in shades of gold and rose. The village sits at the highest point of the caldera rim, nearly 400 meters above the sea, and from here the view encompasses the entire volcanic archipelago. To your left, the cliffs curve away toward Oia, their white buildings glowing like pearls in the evening light. To your right, Fira spreads along its own section of the rim, and straight ahead, the dark bulk of the volcanic islets sits in the center of the caldera. Like sleeping giants, you find yourself on Imerovigli's main terrace, a wide platform that seems to hang suspended between earth and sky. The surface beneath your feet is smooth marble, still warm from the day's sun, but beginning to cool as evening approaches. The terrace is dotted with small tables and chairs, and you can see that every seat faces west toward the sunset that is still an hour away, but already drawing crowds of expectant watchers. A small taverna occupies one corner of the terrace, its blue-painted shutters thrown open to catch the evening breeze. The scent of grilled fish drifts from its kitchen, sea bass and red mullet caught in local waters and prepared with olive lemon, and herbs that grow wild on the island's hillsides. Your stomach reminds you that you haven't eaten since the ferry, and you make your way toward the taverna's entrance, where strings of small lights are just beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. The interior is cool and dim after the brightness outside, its white walls decorated with old photographs of Santorini from decades past. You can see the same views you've been admiring, but captured in black and white images that show how little this landscape has changed despite the passage of time. The floors are made of local stone, smooth and cool beneath your feet, and the air carries the mingled scents of cooking food, wine, and the faint mustiness of old wood. You choose a table by the window where you can watch the terrace while you eat. The proprietor approaches, a man in his 60s with silver hair and hands that speak of a lifetime of work. His smile is genuine and unhurried as he places a small dish of olives on your table, their dark skins glistening with olive oil and herbs. The olives are Kalamata variety, their flesh firm and slightly bitter, with a saltiness that speaks of the sea air that has cured them. Tita delite, he asks. What would you like? And his voice carries the warm roughness of someone who has spent years breathing the volcanic dust that hangs in Santorini's air. You order the grilled sea bass and a salad of local tomatoes, and he nods approvingly before disappearing into the kitchen, where you can hear the sizzle of fish hitting a hot grill. While you wait, you sip a glass of local white wine, a theory this time, lighter and more delicate than the Assyrtiko you had in Fira. The wine is so pale it's almost colorless, but its flavor is complex and mineral, with notes of citrus and sea spray that seem to capture the essence of this volcanic landscape. You can taste the struggle of the vines, their roots reaching deep into pumice and ash to find the moisture they need to survive in this arid climate. Through the window, you watch as more people arrive on the terrace, all drawn by the promise of Santorini's famous sunset. There are couples holding hands, families with children who run between the tables, solo travelers like yourself who sit quietly and absorb the scene. Everyone moves with the unhurried pace that seems to infect all visitors to the Greek islands, a recognition that some experiences cannot be rushed, that beauty reveals itself only to those who are willing to wait. Your food arrives as the sun begins its final descent toward the horizon. The sea bass is grilled to perfection, its skin crispy and charred, while the flesh beneath remains moist and flaky. The fish tastes of the sea, clean and fresh, with a slight smokiness from the grill. It's accompanied by a salad of Santorini tomatoes, small and intensely flavored, their sweetness concentrated by the volcanic soil and constant sun. The tomatoes are still warm from the day's heat, and their juice mingles with the olive oil and oregano to create a dressing that tastes like summer itself. As you eat, you become aware of a subtle change in the light. What was golden is becoming orange, then deep amber as the sun approaches the horizon. The buildings around you seem to glow from within, their white walls reflecting and amplifying the warm light until the entire village appears to be carved from luminous stone. You can feel the warmth on your face, gentle but persistent, and you realize that you're witnessing one of nature's most reliable performances. The daily transformation of ordinary light into something magical. The proprietor appears at your elbow with a small glass of something clear and strong-smelling. Sipuro, he says with a smile, for my village in Naxos, for the sunset. The spirit burns slightly as it goes down, but it leaves a warm glow in your chest and a taste of anise and herbs on your tongue. It's the perfect punctuation to the meal, a small ritual that marks the transition from day to evening. You leave the taverna as the sun hangs just above the horizon, its light now deep orange and growing more intense by the minute. The path from Imerovigli to Oia is the most dramatic section of the caldera walk, following the cliff edge for nearly 3 kilometers through some of the most spectacular scenery in the Mediterranean. Your footsteps echo softly on the smooth stone as you join the stream of people making the pilgrimage to Oia for the sunset. Couples walking hand in hand, families with children skipping ahead, photographers laden with equipment, all drawn by the promise of witnessing one of the world's most celebrated natural spectacles. The path winds between private villas and small hotels, their terraces carved directly into the cliff face, and their infinity pools seeming to merge with the sea far below. Through wrought iron gates, you catch glimpses of hidden courtyards where jasmine and oleander bloom in terracotta pots, their fragrance heavy in the warm evening air. The scent mingles with the salt breeze rising from the caldera, creating a perfume that seems uniquely Santorinian, part Mediterranean garden, part volcanic earth, part endless sea. As you walk, the view constantly shifts and changes. Sometimes the path curves inland, offering glimpses of Santorini's interior, where terraced vineyards climb the gentle slopes in geometric patterns that speak of centuries of careful cultivation. The vines are trained low to the ground in basket-like formations called coulura, a technique developed to protect the grapes from the constant wind that sweeps across the island. You can see the workers moving among the vines in the distance, their bent forms silhouetted against the golden hillsides as they tend to grapes that will become some of the world's most distinctive wines. Other times, the path hugs the cliff edge so closely that you can look straight down into the caldera, where the water is so deep and blue it seems almost black. Small boats dot the surface, sailing yachts and motor cruisers that have anchored for the evening's show, their passengers already gathering on deck with glasses of champagne and cameras at the ready. The boats rock gently in the slight swell, and you can see the glint of sunlight on their windows and the white foam of their wakes as latecomers hurry to find good positions. You pass the ruins of Scaros Rock, an ancient Venetian fortress that once guarded the entrance to the caldera, but now stands as a romantic ruin perched on an isolated pinnacle of volcanic stone. The fortress is accessible only by a narrow path that winds down from the main cliff, and you can see couples making their way carefully down the rocky trail, drawn by the promise of a more secluded sunset viewing spot. The stone of the ruins is warm to the touch when you brush against it, heated by a full day of Mediterranean sun, and you can feel its rough texture, volcanic tuff that has been carved by wind and weather into fantastic shapes. The light continues to deepen as you walk, and you become aware of subtle changes in the landscape around you. The white buildings seem to glow more intensely, their cubic forms sharp and clean against the deepening blue of the sky. The sea takes on an almost metallic sheen, its surface broken only by the gentle swells that roll in from the open Aegean. Even the air seems different, thicker somehow, pregnant with the promise of the spectacle to come. You can hear the sound of voices ahead, carried on the wind from Oia's terraces, where hundreds of people are already gathering for the sunset. There's laughter and the clink of glasses, conversations in a dozen different languages as travelers from around the world come together for this daily ritual. But beneath these human sounds, you become aware of something else. The deep, almost subsonic rumble of the sea far below, where waves crash against the base of the cliffs in a rhythm that has continued unchanged for thousands of years. A small chapel appears ahead, Aegeos Nikolaos, perched impossibly on a rocky outcrop that juts into the caldera like a prow of a ship. The chapel's blue dome glows like a jewel in the golden light, and its white walls seem to merge seamlessly with the volcanic rock on which it stands. The building is so perfectly positioned that it appears to have grown from the cliff itself, a testament to the skill of the craftsmen who built it and their deep understanding of this dramatic landscape. As you round the final bend in the path, Oya comes into view in all its postcard perfection. The village cascades down the cliff face in a tumble of white cubes and blue domes, its building so perfectly integrated with the natural rock formations that it's impossible to tell where architecture ends and geology begins. The site is breathtaking not just for its beauty, but for its audacity, the sheer human determination it must have taken to carve a settlement from such an impossible landscape. You enter Oya through its maze of narrow streets, each one paved with smooth volcanic stones that have been polished by countless footsteps until they gleam like dark mirrors. The streets are barely wide enough for two people to pass, their walls rising on either side in perfect white cubes that seem to glow from within as the golden hour light intensifies. Your footsteps echo softly in the narrow passages, mixing with the sound of other pilgrims making their way toward the sunset, viewing points that have made this village famous around the world. The air in these narrow streets is cooler than on the open cliff path, shaded by the buildings that rise on either side like canyon walls. But it carries the same intoxicating mixture of scents, jasmine and oleander from hidden courtyards, the salt tang of the sea, the faint mineral smell of volcanic dust, and something else that might be the scent of anticipation itself, as hundreds of people converge on this small village for the evening's main event. You follow the flow of foot traffic toward the western edge of the village, passing small shops where local artisans display their wares. Handmade ceramics glazed in blues that echo the Aegean, silver jewelry inspired by ancient Minoan designs, bottles of wine from grapes that grow nowhere else on earth. The shopkeepers stand in their doorways with the patient smiles of people who have witnessed this daily migration thousands of times, their eyes twinkling with the knowledge of what awaits the newcomers. A small cafe appears on your left, its blue-painted door thrown open to catch the evening breeze. Inside, you can see locals playing backgammon, their weathered hands moving the pieces with practiced precision, while they sip small glasses of strong coffee. The click of the dice and the gentle tap of pieces on the wooden board creates a rhythm that seems to match the unhurried pace of island life. One of the players looks up as you pass and nods, his eyes crinkling with a smile that needs no translation. The streets begin to widen as you approach the western edge of the village, and suddenly you emerge onto Oya's famous sunset terrace, a wide platform that seems to hang suspended between earth and sky. The view that greets you is so perfect it seems almost unreal, like a photograph that has been enhanced beyond the bounds of possibility. The caldera spreads out below in an impossibly blue circle, its edges defined by the dramatic cliffs of Santorini and the gentler slopes of Thracia in the distance. The terrace is already crowded with sunset watchers, but there's none of the pushing and shoving you might expect. Instead, there's an almost reverent quality to the gathering, as if everyone understands that they're about to witness something sacred. Couples sit close together on the low stone walls that edge the terrace. Families spread blankets on the smooth marble surface. Photographers adjust their equipment with the focused intensity of people preparing for a religious ceremony. You find a spot near the northern edge of the terrace where you can lean against a white-painted railing that's still warm from the day's sun. The metal is smooth beneath your palms, worn by countless hands that have gripped it in anticipation of this moment. From here, you can see the entire sweep of the caldera, from the dark volcanic islets in the center to the distant mountains of the Peloponnese that rise like purple shadows on the eastern horizon. The sun hangs just above Thracia now, a perfect orange disk that seems almost close enough to touch. Its light has taken on an intensity that makes everything it touches glow as if lit from within. The white buildings of Oya seem to pulse with golden fire, their cubic forms sharp and clean against the deepening blue of the sky. Even the sea has been transformed, its surface turned to molten copper that reflects the sun's image in a shimmering column of light. A waiter appears at your elbow with a tray of champagne glasses, their surfaces already beaded with condensation in the warm air. You take one gratefully, feeling the cool weight of the glass in your hand and the gentle fizz of bubbles against your lips as you take your first sip. The champagne is crisp and dry, with a minerality that seems to echo the volcanic soil beneath your feet. It's the perfect accompaniment to this moment, a small ritual that marks the transition from ordinary time to something magical. Around you, the crowd has fallen into an expectant hush. Cameras click and whir as photographers capture the changing light, but even they seem subdued, as if aware that they're witnessing something that transcends documentation. Children who were running and playing just minutes ago now stand quietly beside their parents, their eyes wide with wonder at the spectacle unfolding before them. The sun continues its descent, and with each passing minute, the light becomes more intense and more golden. You can feel its warmth on your face, gentle but persistent, and you realize that you're not just watching the sunset, but participating in it, becoming part of the daily dance between earth and star that has continued unchanged since the beginning of time. The champagne glass grows warm in your hand, and you can taste the salt air on your lips, mixed with the dry effervescence of the wine. As the sun touches the horizon, a collective sigh rises from the crowd, not of disappointment, but of recognition that the climax is at hand. The light takes on an almost supernatural intensity, painting everything it touches in shades of gold and copper and rose. The sea becomes a mirror of fire, reflecting the sun's image in a column of light that seems to stretch from the horizon to your feet. Even the air seems to glow, thick with golden particles that dance and shimmer in the evening light. And then, in what feels like both an instant and an eternity, the sun slips below the horizon, leaving behind a sky painted in shades of pink and purple and gold that seem too beautiful to be real. The crowd erupts in spontaneous applause, as if acknowledging a performance by a master artist, and you find yourself clapping along, your champagne glass forgotten in your hand, as you join in this ancient human ritual of celebrating the day's end. The applause fades, but the magic lingers. The sky continues to glow with reflected light, and the first stars begin to appear in the deepening blue above. The white buildings of Oya take on a soft luminescence in the twilight, and the sea settles into the deep blue-black of night. You remain at the railing, reluctant to break the spell, letting the peace of this moment settle into your bones, like warmth from a fire. Gradually, the crowd begins to disperse, people drifting away in small groups with the satisfied air of pilgrims who have completed their journey. But you stay, watching as the lights begin to twinkle on in the village below, and the moon rises over the caldera, casting a silver path across the dark water. The champagne glass is empty in your hand, but you hardly notice, lost in the profound quiet that follows the day's grand finale. The night air is soft against your skin, carrying the scent of jasmine and sea salt and the faint mineral tang of volcanic earth. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolls the hour, its bronze voice echoing across the water and up the cliff faces in a sound that seems to come from another century. You close your eyes and let the sound wash over you, feeling grateful to be here, in this moment, in this impossible place where human dreams and natural wonder converge in perfect harmony. When you finally turn to leave, your footsteps soft on the smooth stone of the terrace, you carry with you the memory of this evening, not just the visual spectacle of the sunset, but the deeper experience of being present at one of the earth's daily miracles. The narrow streets of Oya embrace you as you walk back toward your hotel, their white walls glowing softly in the moonlight, and you know that this moment will stay with you long after you've left this volcanic paradise behind.